Give 'em hell, Adele. Well, we are now officially balls deep in the Bondathon. And by that I mean we are 3 films in. We watched Skyfall, which came out in 2012. This one was the first one, I believe, that I saw in theaters. I don't think I saw Quantum in theaters, and I did not see Casino Royale in theaters. So yeah, this was the first one I ever saw in theaters. What do you think of that?
Was that really cool for you?
Yeah, and I went with my friends Kian and Michael, and potentially Camden as well. Don't exactly remember, but we went to the theater in Poway at night. I remember this.
Do you remember the date? Do you want to give the address? Do you want to give their last names? Do you want to tell everyone what their mom's name is?
I could. Should I do it?
I feel like you didn't give enough
Should I
information.
dox my
What was the
childhood friends? I seem to remember it being during the school year, so it wasn't quite summer yet. Let me take a guess, and then you can look it up. It was warm, but it's always warm in San Diego, so that doesn't really tell me much. But I think it was coming around to summer, so I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess it was April or May. What was it?
November.
Shit. Well, November. Anyway, saw this in theaters in November. Yeah, and now you're watching it for the very first time.
No, I've seen this one before.
Nope, very first time, right here.
Uh, why are you lying?
Have you only seen it that one time when we were dating?
I think we were married, weren't we?
No, we weren't.
Oh.
I don't think we were. Honestly, I was a little surprised that your family put it on.
I thought we
Because,
watched this by ourselves.
no, your family was there. We didn't choose it either.
It was my dad, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you saw it the first time on the couch upstairs in your house with your family, whose names first and last I will give now, as well as middle.
Do you want to tell them my home address?
No, I figured I would skip right to their credit card information because I can actually get that. For those that would like to know, actually, I'm not even going to say that. It's a potential security risk. Let's just say that there is a shared account in the family with
It doesn't have
an
the full number.
an absolutely obscene number of credit cards. It's everybody's credit card that they've ever had, probably. I swear, there's like 25.
I think there's more. No, yeah, there's probably about that many.
Anyways, this to say that I could give you guys some credit card information if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that.
Well, I used to know their PIN, but I can't remember it now.
Everybody's PIN for all 25?
No, my parents.
Was that mandatory memorization requirement before you could leave the house? Tell me all the pins.
Yeah.
I remember you not really liking Skyfall that first time that we watched it.
Well, that's fair. I mean, I wasn't really into like action movies back then, like at all, or any violent movies. This movie is intense. Because who's the guy?
Silva?
Yeah, the guy from Eat, Pray, Love.
Javier Bardem. Yeah, how crazy is that? Micah knows Javier Bardem as the guy from Eat, Pray, Love. Not the guy from No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Not the guy from Skyfall. Eat, Pray, Love. In the comments, if you knew him only from Eat, Pray, Love, let us know. But I thought everybody knew him from No Country Old Men. That's what I thought.
Well, I hadn't seen that until...
I hadn't either, but I knew that that's who it was.
I hadn't even heard of that movie.
Okay, to be fair, my first like full Javier Bardem experience that I can remember was Skyfall. I saw No Country later, but I knew who this guy was before I went into the movie. I'd seen, the coin toss scene where he's like,
I hadn't even heard of No Country for Old Men, which I will say, having only Eat, Pray, Love as my experience with Javier Bardem, and then watching No Country for Old Men ruined him. Because he does such a good job in that movie. It's so believable. If you don't know, he plays a really scary bad guy.
Everybody knows.
Okay, but...
Everybody knows.
Maybe people that only know Javier Bardem from Eat, Pray, Love don't know that. If there is anybody.
It's like widely regarded as one of the best villain performances ever, period. All caps. Including everyone, including Darth Vader, including who even else is super legendary as a villain? Emperor Palpatine,
No.
Jar Jar Binks, Darth Maul, General Grievous, the Joker. You know, it's up in that stratosphere. I guess if you want to count Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be
Hannibal
Blood.
Lecter.
Yep.
Joker.
Hannibal. There he is. Anton Chigurh. Norman Bates. That's a good one. Agent Smith. They're all great. He's up in that freaking
Nurse
weight
Ratchet.
class. Oh, she was good too.
Yeah, she was really good.
Yeah. I like how Alan Rickman is just Alan Rickman.
I know, he's not even Snape.
No, it wouldn't be Snape. I think it would be the Die Hard guy.
Anyways, so Javier Bardem is hard to. It's hard. He's such a good actor that it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
watch him
Yeah.
sometimes because he does such a good job. And there's one point in Skyfall where he has they're kind of like dentures, but
Yeah.
I guess it is dentures, but it's more than just teeth. It goes up into his upper jaw
Yeah.
area, and he pulls that out. Ugh.
Because okay, so
You don't need to give context why right now.
okay, yeah, he pulls
But
it out and his face is all
and
deformed,
it's all the like super sunken in.
and that was keeping it in place
Yeah.
basically. And it's like, whoa, okay,
And his teeth are super nasty.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. It's a really, really good villain.
Yeah, he is
One
such a good villain.
one of the best Bond villains, and right there neck and neck in my opinion. I think I like him more than Lashif personally as a villain.
In what way?
Like I think he's a more interesting villain, more compelling villain. And I really like Lashif a lot. I think they both have a lot of
They're very different.
right. They both have a lot of gravitas, but I think Silva has just that little bitsy bitsy witsy more.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I would say he's more extravagant. Like jazz hands. I'm a villain. Jazz hands.
Yeah.
That's him.
Well, his introduction is so good. Do you remember it?
At the island?
Yeah. Where
Yeah.
where Bond is tied to a chair and then he comes down. He's on the opposite side of a very long room, and he comes down on an elevator, and he's just talking to Bond the whole time. And he's like, "Hello, James. Do you like the island? Blah 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 blah
That is
blah blah
not his
blah blah blah
accent.
blah 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 blah." And then he gives this parable about how his grandmother used to own an island and
Oh,
it was infested with rats. And do you know how to get rid of rats? My grandmother showed me.
to
You
stop
know,
them from eating the coconuts.
right? You put a bit of
Stop
coconut.
doing the accent. It's not right.
You put a bit of coconut in the on the edge of a barrel, and then plop 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 plop, they all fall in. And then what do? Do you burn it? No. Do you throw it out into the water? No. You just leave it. And then one by one they start to get hungry. And then and then they start eating each other. And then he's like, "What do you do with the last rat?"
The last two.
No, it's the last rat. The very last rat.
The last two.
Yeah, but the last no, that's not right.
Because he references how him and Bond are the last
Oh,
two.
is it so you release the last two?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so you release the rats. Shit. You release the last two. You release the last two because now they don't eat coconut anymore. Now they just eat rat.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like slowly getting closer and closer and closer to Bond the whole time as he's giving this monologue. And it's just great. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
A great character introduction.
Well, how does this movie start? Bond gets shot?
Yeah, they're trying to recover that list, and then Bond ends up on a train pursuing the guy that stole the list, and then Moneypenny has a shot, but it's not a clean shot, and she accidentally hits Bond, knocks him off the train and into the wah, and that's how the movie begins. Really good opening,
Yeah.
honestly. The freaking motorcycle chase on the rooftops in
Yeah.
in Istanbul, and then the fight on the train, and then he gets hit. You're like, whoa. Yeah, and he's gonna be okay
Yeah.
because it's a Bond movie,
Well,
but
and it's the first 10 minutes of the movie.
right. But he just gets sniped, and then all the music stops, and then he just slowly falls. The sound effect is really good too. It's very punchy when he gets hit,
Mm-hmm.
and then he falls like 100 feet more.
Oh, he should not have survived that
Yeah,
fall.
no way.
No.
let alone the bullet.
No,
Right.
yeah. Well,
Um,
and why does he seem like he's having such a fun time being dead? Because, surprise, he lives. And he's
mhm.
like living on this beach.
Yeah.
And he goes to the bar like every night and he partakes in drinking games where he's, everyone's betting.
Yeah, but he's not having fun.
No, he's not.
Were you looking at his face?
Yeah, he's not really having fun.
Yeah.
But he's there,
He's totally
enjoying
disconnected.
being dead.
Right.
Because inside he is dead.
Right.
And this is all he can do.
Right. And then he comes back.
Yeah.
Because they need him to come back. And yeah. So apparently this movie had a lot of drafts submitted before this one was finally chosen. Apparently one of the drafts was going to end in James Bond being forced to kill M.
At the very end of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was one of the drafts. And then when they brought on Sam Mendes to direct, he was like, I don't like James Bond killing M. I don't like that.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. And so they didn't do that, and they came up with a different story.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, I am too. Because really, the heart and soul of this movie is Bond's relationship with M.
Yeah. A mother figure, an authority figure, someone that he cares about.
Right. Yeah. Newcomer alert. What's that?
Q.
Yeah, no, actually, I guess two, three technically. Moneypenny Q and Mr. Ray Fiennes.
Oh. Which?
Good addition or great addition?
Oh, amazing addition.
Yeah, I love Ray Fiennes. He's awesome. So he plays the chairman of something something something. He's one of the, I guess, like basically the cabinet, an equivalent to a cabinet member to the new prime minister.
Is he a member of parliament?
I don't know how it
An
works over there.
MP?
I think he's like a secretary of blank, secretary
Mm.
of defense, let's say, because he's the liaison from between the prime minister and MI6, the double O program. And he's a new guy, and Bond doesn't really know him, so Bond doesn't really trust him, but seems like a good guy, but maybe he's not, and I don't know. What do you think? And he's just a great addition, right?
Yeah.
And then we get Q.
Who's just this nerdy, techie defense dude. How,
Yeah,
how do you.
he's the quartermaster.
Yeah, what does that even mean? Is that why they call him Q?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So Q is a staple of Bond movies. Did you know this? Q is as necessary as M
Mm.
in the history of Bond movies, and he's the one that's always giving Bond his crazy gadgets and his crazy cars. And the reason he wasn't in these movies to date is because the Daniel Craig movies were a little bit more serious, right?
Mm.
A little bit less goofy. And thus there was no real need for Q, but they brought Q back. This is a really good mix of throwing it back to the old ways of James Bond
With its own twist.
and the new James Bond that Daniel Craig has been thus far. So it's like got a good mix of humor and funny and some gadgets, but also serious.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think so?
Yeah. So I think it took till this movie. I mean, I've enjoyed all of them. This is the third one, right?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed Casino Royale. Quantum Solace, I think it took until we were talking about it, recording an episode to realize that I'd never seen this movie that I'd never seen that movie before, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then Skyfall, I have remembered, oh my gosh, I remember watching, and I remember just thinking, it was fine.
Hmm.
I have realized that I really enjoy these movies.
They're awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're now watching.
We're on No Time to Die. So we finished Spectre. We'll talk about that in the next episode, and then No Time to Die will be after that.
Yeah, so it took until Spectre to realize that honestly, I love these movies. I think
Yeah.
they're so fun.
So now you need to watch Casino Royale again.
Yeah, now I need to watch them all again.
Yeah. Right. I've honestly considered as we've gone through this, because I've seen 75% of the Pierce Brosnan movies, so I'm missing one. But I've never seen a Sean Connery one, or a Roger Moore one, or a Timothy Dalton one, or a George Lazenby. I think George Lazenby only did one. So I'm missing all of the classic ones. So I've actually thought about going back and watching all of them just to have the full set. You know what I mean?
Timothy Dalton?
Yeah, you didn't know that? He was Bond for 2 movies right before Pierce Brosnan.
Oh my gosh. I can't even look at him the same after.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Micah, similarly to how she knows Javier Bardem from Eat, Pray, Love, Micah knows Timothy Dalton from, can you guess? 1923. Not from anything else. Not from anything else he's done. To be fair, I think that the only thing that I remember seeing him in is Hot Fuzz,
Yeah.
and he's really good in Hot Fuzz. But
Well, he's barely in it, isn't
oh,
he?
he's in Toy Story 3. Who is he in Toy Story 3? He's Mr. Pricklepants?
He must be a other toy or something.
Yeah.
That's wild. He's so gross in 1923.
But this whole marathon that we've been doing has made me kind of want to watch some of those, you know? At least like the big ones.
That's fair. This has just been really fun.
Yeah, this is like one of those series that it just, no matter how hard you might try, it rubs its charms off on you,
Yeah.
doesn't it? And just like Bond's gravitas and his swagger and
Yeah,
his
one, how well he's dressed.
little quips that he makes, and
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Well, and like
just,
his way with women is just wild.
yeah. And it doesn't
Wild.
it doesn't bother you.
Uh, it should. I know that it's not good the way that he treats all of these women.
Mhm.
Because he doesn't really care. He's just using them for one thing.
Yeah, I think that it's better in Craig's tenure than it has been with other Bond actors. But yeah, yeah, sure.
And I don't know, maybe I need to think about why it doesn't bother me because it really should. It's not great.
Well, the thing is, like they subverted that trope right off the bat in Casino Royale. Because remember that that conversation he has on the train to Montenegro with Vesper, how she's like, you think of women as disposable pleasures rather than meaningful pursuits or whatever, and she's just matching him step for step on everything, wit,
Hmm.
puns, all that kind of stuff. So, like, right from Casino Royale, you could tell that they wanted to treat the women more respectfully, I think, than they had in the past.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
They wanted to treat them more respectfully?
Right. Like they wanted to write them with more intelligence. They wanted to, there's Vesper obviously, and she's
Okay, I guess I agree with you there. They are people.
and then what was the name? Camille from Quantum of Solace. Similar.
Yeah.
She has her own motivations, she has her own autonomy. She
Is
lets
not just
yeah, she's not just a passenger, and she's
a body.
right. Yeah, that too. And then in Skyfall, the main woman of Skyfall is M. And M is really the one that started this slow transition from, I guess, women being not so important in the Bond movies, more just objects in the Bond movies, to, being their own entities, their own force of nature, or whatever in my mind's eye, or whatever. And M is like the prime example of that in all these movies. They do discard one woman pretty harshly in
He-
Skyfall,
Who?
the girl from the casino.
Remind me how she dies.
Silva puts a glass of whiskey on her
Oh, yeah,
head
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and I was thinking of in Casino Royale how that woman is dead and she's in the
in the
hammock.
hammock.
That
Yeah,
was rough.
yeah,
And how M is like, I would say that you need to stay unattached, but I don't think that's your issue, or
right.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you said they tried to treat these women more as humans or whatever, that's what I was thinking. Like, what?
Oh well, I mean, so this is kind of how it used to be in the Bond movies. He literally, so he, as an example, he gets pulled from duty because he's injured, goes into a doctor's office.
The Double O program or in the army or whatever, the
In
military.
MI6.
Okay.
MI6 doctor is not clearing him for duty, and he says, "No, I need to be cleared for duty." Immediately seduces her, sleeps with her, and then she gives him the
Oh
okay
my
for duty.
gosh.
So that's how women have been historically treated in Bond movies.
Okay.
That's been their role basically, is just to,
Okay.
be the sexy.
Obstacle
Right,
that he had to sleep his way past.
right. Or the end goal to sleep with.
Yeah.
That's
And that I don't like.
right. And it doesn't really feel like that's going on in Skyfall, except for that one scene in the shower when he gets on the boat.
Well, and who's that girl from Quantum Solace that has red hair?
Mm, yeah, they do that there too. Yeah, that's true. So like, yeah, that's not totally gone from these movies, but
Hi, we're teachers and we're on sabbatical.
and we just won the
We
lottery.
just won the lottery.
Oh yeah. I thought I wrote some notes about this, but I guess I just wrote them for Spectre. Figured I could, fire from the hip here. I've always really liked this one. This one has been my second favorite ever since I watched it that night in November with my friends, Kian and Michael, and possibly Camden in Poway. I remember walking out of that movie just like, yes, that was really good.
This one is such a vibe,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Well, what do you mean by that?
So when they're in Scotland, just the picturesque landscapes
Mm-hmm.
and all of that, and it's cold, and everyone's in these really nice winter get-ups.
Mm-hmm.
In that way, it's a vibe. I feel like, London, amazing. I will always love London and I'll always feel like London is a vibe. But this is the third movie. And so by the third movie, I'm like, oh yeah, it's London. It's just is like, of course they're going to show shots of London. And I feel like I've kind of,
I'm not sure that Bond is ever in London in Casino Royale, except for I guess when he breaks into M's apartment.
well, I'm just saying that they show
Yeah.
shots of London. And I feel like I've kind of, become accustomed to it. So it's not always as impressive.
Yeah.
But the shots that they have of Scotland and just,
Oh yeah, so good.
I don't know.
Well, what did you think about when they were in Shanghai? I think it was, and he's in that huge skyscraper, and the guy that he's pursuing is trying to kill someone. He's an assassin,
In the next building over.
and Bond enters the room, and it's
That was so cool. All
all
the
these all
lights.
these like glass picture an office from Succession, like all the walls are glass,
Yeah,
all the
glass
doors are glass,
offices.
but there's this huge billboard across the street that keeps changing and shining all these blue, red, pink neon lights into the building that Bond and the assassin are in, and the glare is making it so they can't see each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool,
Yeah.
right? So famously, the cinematographer for this one was Roger Deakins. If you had to guess, what are some other movies that you think Roger Deakins may have worked on, just from what you saw in Skyfall?
Can you give me a few options?
Okay, well, how about this? What other movies have you seen such vivid? Think of the parts in Scotland when the sun has gone down and it's very orange.
Oh,
And
oh, oh, oh.
what other movies have you seen?
Sicario.
Yep,
You told me, but now I can't remember. Just name them.
Blade Runner 2049,
Oh right.
1917, Sicario, The Assassination of Jesse James. This is one we might watch actually because the cast is super, likable to us. In that movie, there's Brad Pitt, Casey Affleck, Sam Rockwell,
I
Jeremy Renner.
love Casey Affleck.
Jeremy Renner. That's a really really good cast. And Roger Deakins did the cinematography. So this is probably the prettiest James Bond movie, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
They all look good, but this one especially.
Well, the beginning of No Time to Die is also really pretty.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Matera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks great. But like Roger Deakins loves playing with colors and silhouettes. So there's going to be shots that are just like they stick in your mind, from his movies, and there are multiple that's the case for in Skyfall for me.
Yeah, it's really pretty. There was one part on the drive through Scotland where they stop on the side of the road and they're right next to a river. I'm like 90% sure that it's the same place where they filmed part of The Crown.
Mm-hmm.
It looks exactly the same.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you prove it? Can you get the shot from The Crown?
maybe. Do you need me to right now?
No, I'd be curious to see them side to side, but you don't have to do it now. The story in this one, I like. I have a few quibbles with it. Little tiny quibble here, little tiny quibble there. Obviously, Bond surviving, getting shot, and falling over 100 feet is kind of ridiculous. That's never going to happen. The problem that I have with it, without the main problem that I have with the story, without getting into too much detail, is how smart the villain is sometimes. It just feels like one of those things where there's no way he could have planned for all of this to go the way that it did. But like
Like
it
getting into Parliament?
but it's delivered so well and it's shot so well, and the music, by the way, I was paying attention to this time around watching Skyfall. I think the music in Skyfall is maybe my favorite of the Daniel Craig Bond movies, which is saying a lot because I love the music in Casino Royale, and it's been really good in No Time to Die as well. But in Skyfall, like they just do this. I mean, they do the classic Bond themes with the classic orchestra, but they also sometimes do this like almost computer sounding. Did you notice this? It sounds very spy.
Mm-mm.
Like when he's pursuing that assassin, for example, or when the assassin gets off the airplane and Bond's in his freaking his
His
freaking
driver.
cab driver outfit. When I saw that, I was like, this is literally a Hitman level because he's wearing sunglasses and a hat. He looks like Agent 47 wearing sunglasses and a hat, just like expressionless.
Holding a
He's
sign.
there to kill you. I
Yeah.
would I would not I would not shake hands with that guy. He's probably gonna stab you with a knife if you shake hands with him. So funny. But like during that part, they're playing that. I don't even know what it is. It sounds very like it sounds computer. Everything's computer.
That's not a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the if it's off of an electric keyboard or they're doing something weird to it in post, but it sounds so cool and it sounds very espionage, and I really like the music in this movie. Anyway, the point of all that was the music is banging, the dialogue is banging, the action is choreographed really well. It looks amazing cinematography wise because Roger Deakins. And so because of all this, as I'm watching Skyfall, I'm able to ignore some of the contrivances that are falling into place in order for Silva's plan to sort of go off without a hitch. It's only when I think about, all the variables that he would have had to account for after I've watched the movie that I'm like, hang on a second. There's no fucking way that he was able to plan that all out. There's no way. Anyways, that's like basically my one gripe with it. You should talk because I think the next thing I want to talk about is how it ends, and we shouldn't do that until spoilers.
Well, what about the fact that he held on to the elevator up,
Uh huh.
let's just say conservatively
20 stories.
20? It was definitely more than that,
Yeah.
but very conservatively 20 floors.
Yeah.
There's no way. With how he was not doing very well.
Struggling when he came back.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about that is, Micah, the thing about that you got to remember is he still had shrapnel in his arm. He took it out before the mission.
Still.
So that's how come he could shoot perfect again, and
Oh my gosh.
how come he could do that holy thing. But he had to let go for a second. Did you appreciate that at least?
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. He didn't totally let go. He let go with one hand and then he
No, he let go
re-grabbed
with
it.
both hands as the elevator kept going, and he used.
He just hovered.
Yeah, he just kept going up.
Amazing. He
Yeah.
used the force. Did you know that Daniel Craig was in a Star Wars movie?
Shut up. Which one?
Episode 7.
What did he do?
He was a stormtrooper with his helmet on. And he
Wait,
had
didn't they have a few different like major
yeah,
celebrities?
yep. Tom Hardy was one in The Last
Oh my
Jedi in a
gosh.
deleted scene with like a Texas accent. Yeah, it's just hilarious because I think Daniel Craig particularly just wanted to be in the movie. It's
Good
like
for him.
he's like I love Star Wars and I want to be in that movie. So I'll take whatever you give me. I'll be a stormtrooper with a helmet on. I don't care. Just awesome.
That's so funny. Did you think that the bad guy, what
Mhm.
was his name, Silva?
Yeah.
His reason for being a bad guy was compelling?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. You didn't think so?
No, I did.
Yeah, I thought it was really good actually. And that is something when we talk about Spectre, we'll talk about it more. I sort mm, I got to be careful how much I say because of spoilers. I think that they handled the villains in Casino Royale, Skyfall, and even Quantum of Solace much more strongly than they did in Spectre.
Which one? Wait, they handled what?
I think that every single Bond movie in the Craig era handled their villains better than in Spectre, including Quantum of Solace.
You
With
didn't like the bad guy in Spectre?
We'll get to that in Spectre when we talk about Spectre, but not really. No.
Hmm.
What else? What else? Did you like Q? Did you like him? Good addition? Great addition?
A good addition.
A good addition?
Yeah. I mean, I like all the gadgets.
I really
He's
like
fine.
I really like the banter that Bond has with him though.
Yeah. But I like the banter that he has best with M.
Sure. Yeah. I mean that's but like the part where they're meeting for the first time and he's like Craig's like, "You must be joking." Why? Because you still have spots.
Acne.
My complexion is hardly relevant. Your competence is. And they're just like going back and forth and back and forth. And then Q at one point says, I can do more damage in sitting in my pajamas in my bed after a cup of Earl Grey than you can in a year in the field. And then Bond's like, oh, well, why do you need me? Every now and then a trigger has to be pulled. And then Bond's like, or not pulled. It's hard to know in your pajamas. And then they shake hands and like that's their moment of becoming friends. Or like when he's guiding him to chase after Silva through London and Bond is in the subway and there's a train coming and he can't he can't get through and
Can't get the side door open.
he's gonna get hit by the train and he's like it won't open. Of course it will. Put your back into it. Why don't you come down here and put your back into it?
And then Bond has to shoot the door open,
Yeah,
and he gets through the door, and he's like, I opened it, whatever." And Q's like,
told you.
but you can tell that
Yeah,
he's like visibly
relieved.
relieved.
Yeah. Did you like the part where Bond doesn't know whether to get on the train? Don't get on the train. Yes, get on the train. And it's super packed. It's rush hour. And then he gets off the train and the train starts leaving. And then Q's like, Bond, get on the train. And you can see Bond just roll his eyes.
Well, then he runs after the train and he
Yeah.
jumps on the last, like the platform right at the end of the train where the driver is.
The last car.
Yeah,
Yeah. On the
and
outside of the train.
the driver won't open the door for him.
Open the door. Did you like that old man that's like, he's keen to get home?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he is.
Okay, let's rate it.
Yeah, so I really really like this one. For the reason that I alluded to earlier about like when I think back to it, there are some things that don't make a ton of sense. There's some things that maybe don't make a ton of sense about Casino Royale. Really just one thing that doesn't make a ton of sense about Casino Royale. You want to hear it?
Sure.
So, I'm not totally convinced about this, but as we were watching it this last time, I thought, why doesn't MI6 just arrest Lashif?
On what grounds?
Yeah, that's the thing where I'm like, okay, maybe they couldn't get away with that because
And on international soil.
right, but also Bond literally kills someone in an embassy in a foreign country at the beginning of the movie and he kind of gets away with it. So
Do
like,
they know that he's MI6?
yeah, there's the newspaper says British agent kills unarmed prisoner,
Because there's like that whole thing with like the CIA that like if they get caught, then the United States will claim them.
disavows, yeah.
Yeah.
So So that, that's a reason
So that's a loophole for that, in my opinion. That, you know,
for Casino Royale.
yeah,
So that's the reason that
would
they had to
send.
do the game instead of just arrest him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they'd have to extradite him. They'd have to have local government arrest him and then extradite him, right?
Mm, yeah.
And on what grounds?
So maybe they didn't want to do that. They wanted him to, but how could they guarantee that he would come to MI6? Why wouldn't he just go to,
For what? Come to MI6 for what?
because the plot was he's holding this casino game to win the money back that he lost, right?
Lashif.
Yeah, the chief is. So if we win the poker game, then he has to come to us. Why does he have to come to you? Why couldn't he go to the secret service of his country, wherever he's from? Albania, I think, is where they said he was from. Maybe because they have the money and they could make a deal and they could be like, "Hey, we'll give you the money
Such and such.
if you cooperate or whatever." I don't
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not totally convinced that Bond playing the poker game was the only way for them to get Lashif.
Probably not, but it's a movie.
Right. So like that's the one thing about Casino Royale where I'm like, maybe that's a problem, but the rest of it is just like so flawlessly executed that
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what about Skyfall?
Skyfall, it's how smart the villain is. And I'm like, that's a little hard for me to buy.
The thing where he breaks into Parliament.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's a little hard for me to buy how much of a genius he is. That's really the one thing that holds me back from liking this as much as I like Casino Royale. So I would personally give this I gave Casino Royale a 10. I'd probably give Skyfall a 9.3. How do you like that? A 9.3 old-fashioned Aston Martins out of 10.
I really enjoyed this movie. I think that it's shot really well. And, Braden kind of mentioned this, but some of the color grading and just the shots, like at the end of the movie, I really, really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I don't love Javier Bardem's character
Oh my
because he's
gosh.
scary now. He is not the romantic guy that Julia Roberts meets in Bali, and that's a knock.
Ridiculous.
I think I need to see this again though. I guess I want to watch this again. But I think I'm going to rate this a 9. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed it. I feel like I've only enjoyed these more and more
Mm-hmm.
as we've continued through this. And maybe the next time if we do watch these again, I'll enjoy it even more. But I think I'm going to rate this a 9 subway rush hour metro rush hours out of 10.
Metro this way.
Nice. So, spoilers.
Okay, so here's the degree to which Silva would have had to plan what happened. What?
First off, they said that he'd been planning this for years.
Yes. So, right. So, he wants to get caught. So, the first part of his plan that could have totally failed is when Bond goes to kill the assassin. What if the assassin had killed Bond? Or what if Bond missed him at the airport? Or what if Bond was a couple of minutes late getting into the building and the assassin had already escaped? Right there, plan fails. Okay? Plan doesn't fail in that case. Bond goes to the casino. He takes the chip that the assassin was supposed to cash in at this casino in Macau. I don't know. He cashes it in, meets the girl. The girl's bodyguards try to kill Bond. What if they'd killed Bond? Plan fails right there. Right there.
Okay, but you have to
Kaput.
remember he's been planning this for so long that he probably knows very well Bond's capabilities.
Okay. Bond gets taken to the island. Again, remember, Silva wants to be caught. What if Bond hadn't brought a radio?
See, yeah, that one, I don't know.
But I guess like it wouldn't make sense for Bond to not have his organization be tracking him. So that one I can forgive.
Okay.
Okay, whatever. Silva is captured, which is what he wanted, right? He has a computer that they find that they want to scan and plug in. In fact, his entire plan hinges on them plugging his computer in and breaking the encryption.
Mm-hmm.
because once they break the encryption, that's what triggers the virus. What if Q had thought to himself, him being
Genius.
the genius IT computer science guy that he is, hang on a second. Maybe I shouldn't plug this guy's computer into our system. Maybe I should plug it into a very safe environment so that I can verify.
Into an isolated computer or
Right.
something.
So that I can verify that nothing is going to harm our system. Plan fails if Q thinks to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is, this guy is such a genius. Silva is a genius computer guy as well. He's a computer whiz. That the encryption is really hard to break, right? In fact, Q would not have broke it
If it weren't for Bond.
if Bond didn't happen to see a couple of key words.
Mm-hmm.
So what if Bond was not there as Q was trying to break into this guy's computer?
Maybe he would have figured it out eventually, though.
Plan fails. Plan fails right there, right? So all of these variables Silva somehow guessed correctly that could have totally backfired. Anyway, they plug in the computer, Silva's able to get out. Here's the next thing that is so mind-boggling when you think about it. Do you remember the part where he's in the tube and he passes the policeman and the policeman hands him a package, and it's a package that contains a hitman disguise of a policeman. So Silva disguises himself as a policeman. So Silva was walking west, let's just say, as the policeman was walking east at the exact right time to do the handoff. If any of that chain of events that I had mentioned before doesn't happen exactly when it happened, those two people are not in the exact same spot at the same time to make that handoff. In other words, he was able to predict when he would be captured, when Q would plug in the computer, and when they would break the encryption so well that he was able to tell that guy to be at that stop on the subway at that time so that they could make the handoff so that he could switch disguises.
Yeah, I think you're thinking about it too much.
What do you mean? It was a perfect handoff. It was timed.
Yeah, but don't ruin it.
Okay, the last thing that I'll say is
You're ruining it.
the last thing that I'll say is when Bond catches him, you remember in that abandoned train room, big train room, when he's climbing the ladder and Bond shoots him and shoots at him and says, "I won't miss again, Mr. Silva." And then Silva says, "Here's your prize.
And
It's
it's the
called radio." And then he, blows up a hole in the ceiling. Bond's like, "I do hope that wasn't for me." And he says, "No, but that is." And then a train comes crashing down. How did he know that that was the room that he was maybe going to get caught in? And
that was his. Because if I had to guess, he probably had contingencies upon contingencies, right? And so he knew that if he was going to go through, if he was going to escape through, I don't know, Plan B route, that's what he would be.
okay, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying that's the only bomb we saw him set off. So I'm assuming that's the only bomb that he planted. But maybe he planted others. But not only did he know to plant a bomb there, he somehow knew that a train was going to be coming through right when he was going to get caught. What? What are you talking about? Crazy. Anyway, the reason that I've thought so hard about this is I got into an argument one time with someone about Casino Royale versus Skyfall, and they were trying to. I love both of these movies, by the way, and I understand that there's going to be a little bit of things that you kind of have to roll with the punches on in a James Bond movie. But this person was trying to argue objectively that Skyfall is better than Casino Royale, and I was like, "Listen, dum dum, listen to all the things that Silva somehow was able to plan out. Look me in the face and tell me that Skyfall is a smarter movie than Casino Royale. You can't do it. You can't do it. That's dumb." Anyway, that's why. What do you think about the Home Alone ending? How they're defending the house and the all by themselves with the homemade booby traps, and
I thought that was so fun.
I do too.
I thought it was so fun.
I really like
Well,
it.
and it's also like, you're watching these movies and you're like, okay, Emma's like this old lady. Like, why is she in charge of this department?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does she do? What has she done to earn this? And this movie was like, oh, she is pretty crafty. She's a crafty old lady.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
at some point, she breaks light bulbs
Mhm.
and rigs them so that when the lights turn on, it shoots out
She puts the yeah.
screws.
No, she puts the light bulb into a shotgun shell. Somehow she's activating the gunpowder in the shotgun shell, and then the shotgun shell is in a bag full of nails and screws, and
Yeah.
it blows it up. Right. Yeah.
Crafty.
Yeah.
I was so sad that she died
Yeah.
at the end of this movie.
Yeah. That was sad,
It was
right?
really sad.
And you didn't expect it. You didn't remember it, did you?
No, I'd
Yeah.
forgotten.
Yeah.
But I really liked that whole them defending the house, having the underground tunnel that's, I don't know, half a mile away. They go up, and
Yeah.
then another half mile, let's say, is that cabin.
Yeah.
And when Bond blows up the house and then he's running through the tunnel and he's waiting to hear it explode, and then fire just comes down and he's running and
Yeah.
he's running and he's running.
And he has to dive into a little side
Yeah.
thing. Did you love him running across the ice?
Yeah.
And it was all the it was his reflection and all the orange in the background from
Mhm.
the burning house. Did you love when he kicked that guy in the face so hard that it broke his neck?
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, he just runs up and
Yeah.
kicks the guy in the face.
One thing that I really liked that, and this is another problem that we're going to talk about with Spectre, but when Silva has him at his mercy on the lake, he monologues a tiny little bit because he likes to stick the knife in and rub it in, but he's gonna shoot Bond, and Bond knows he's gonna get shot in this moment. So Bond's only escape is to grab the henchman that's standing next to him, like shoot out the ice that's under his feet so that he drops into the water so that Silva can't shoot him. And Silva tries to shoot him. And I really, really liked that touch because I was like, I couldn't remember if Silva just left him with the henchman or not. And I was like, please God, no. Don't just leave him with, because Bond villains always do that. They're just like, I'm going to leave you in this situation where you're probably going to die, but also there's a decent chance you might get out of it. And then surprise, he gets out of it and they're like, "Oh, what? My plan didn't work." Well, yeah, duh. You're in a movie, you idiot. But I was so glad that Silva didn't do that. Just makes me respect his character, you know? You gotta take care of business.
Well, that was crazy when he shoots out the ice underneath him and the henchman, and then he kills the henchman in the water.
Mm-hmm.
That was
And then
crazy.
uses the flare to find
Yeah.
where the light or the hole was so you can get out.
Mhm.
There was something that was on the tip of my tongue as well.
Let me see.
Uh,
It's not there.
Nothing.
Uh,
Did you like? I always like the way that Silva throws the grenades in the house.
oh, he just tosses them in
He's
there.
just like,
Yeah.
just like with a little bit of flair.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. He's like,
Yeah,
I'm a bad guy
yeah, jazz
with jazz
hands.
hands.
Yeah, because he shows up with the helicopter and he's playing the song and so good. Here's another thing that I'm gonna say now so that I can remember when we talk about Spectre. James Bond takes a couple of pot shots at this helicopter that's approaching the house, and it does nothing as you would expect, right? Just remember that. I'm gonna bring that up later. Yeah, so there's always like, there's some ridiculousness like Bond surviving that shot and Silva planning out that entire escape sequence and whatever else, but underpinning this movie, there's always realism. Like when people get shot, they die, typically. I guess Ray Fiennes takes a stray, but he takes it in the shoulder like a man. How good was that scene though? When
In Parliament.
Yes, when Silva gets to Parliament and Bond is trying to get there in time and the music is playing and M is reading the poem and then the shootout starts
Mm-hmm.
and then Bond hits the
The
freaking
fire
fire
extinguisher.
extinguishers
Yeah.
and then freaking Ray Fiennes' character like an absolute Chad grabs a gun and starts firing back and kills a couple of them. I love that scene.
Yeah.
That scene is so good. Oh, I guess here's another thing that I get that I'm a little confused about. Why is it that they need to go alone to Skyfall?
Because Parliament or the MP or the PM didn't want M. I can't remember at this point now. Because remember Bond tells Q hide our tracks and make
Yeah.
it so only Silva can find us.
Okay, so if there were more people, then maybe Silva would get tipped off.
Something like that, yeah.
Because Silva could, if Silva can track one car, if there's 10 cars going with them, then he's like, oh, maybe I should not attack this stronghold that they're setting up.
Something, yeah.
And then by the time he does show up, even if they called for help, no one would be able to get there in time. Okay, all right, I buy it. I buy it.
Mm.
I like it. But also, like, why not bring Moneypenny? I
Why
understand.
bring her?
I understand
She's
if
taken herself out of the field.
yeah, but I understand if you don't trust people generally at MI6, but you trust Moneypenny.
I think he felt like this was between him and Silva and M.
Sure, but you need to kill Silva. Silva's a problem. He's already blown up MI6. So, like, why not make sure that the odds are a little more in your favor?
I don't know.
Not a huge problem, honestly. But
All right.
yeah, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, really good movie. Watch it if you haven't seen it yet. What's next?
Spectre.
Okay, and we're still watching The Bear season 4
Mm-hmm.
and No Time to Die.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Bye.